All right, guys, so we are back here for you and Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. It's been a lot of fun talking to duelists from all walks of life. But today's guest is kind of special because this duelist literally represents all walks of life. I don't even know if I can cover everything in this intro. Tyler Schmauch is our guest. You might also know him from his handle as Fetty Yu-Gi-Oh! He is, get this, Yu-Gi-Oh! Judge. Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitor with a couple of great seasoned, just amazing performances under his belt, including Day 2 in both of the Shadow Duelist tournaments so far, but also a Yu-Gi-Oh! Voice actor. And we've been talking with a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Voice actors who have been very competitively successful because they're into the game, but Tyler has the privilege of being in Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dark Side of Dimensions. That's a lot of stuff. Did I miss anything, Tyler, or is that like the whole list?
Technically, you missed
Ooh,
like a
okay.
couple stuff, but nothing like huge. I did top YCS Richmond in 2023. I got that top right after you were the commentator for my feature match against Simon He, one of the most intense games that I've ever played in my Yu-Gi-Oh career. And then I like to kind of flex this one, but there was a premiere for Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Side of Dimensions. It was the same day that Duel Links launched. So
right.
Yes, so I was in Manhattan when Duel Links launched with a friend of mine. Bless him. He goes by Jam Buds now. He was like with me at the premiere, and another friend of mine that brought me, Shirley, bless their heart. There's this moment during the movie where Obelisk shows up, and it's like Obelisk is not a monster, he's a god. So like when he said that, he said Obelisk is not a monster, I said to myself out pretty loudly. I was into the movie, I was lost in it, and I said he's a god, and then Kaiba goes he's a god, and I popped off. I'm the only person who stood up in the film. And when I do this, I turn around. Nobody like Eric Stewart's laughing in the background, and Kazuki Takahashi is there. So I would say that I'm one of the few competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players who knows Kazuki Takahashi, who's met him. I turn around, he does this one. I lost my mind. I could not control my mirth. And I just stood down. I was really concerned. And then I didn't know what Kazuki Takahashi looked like. He walked in later to thank everyone for showing up for the premiere and to announce the premiere of Duel Links he had a bunch of guys with suits with him. I thought Seto Kaiba was speaking to me at that point.
Well, we got to detangle a lot of that, and we'll also get back to your humble beginnings and how you started in Yu-Gi-Oh! But at the time of recording, we were about to go into YCS Orlando, and if I remember correctly, you were one of the people who won the contest at Orlando to be a Yu-Gi-Oh! Voice actor. So could you talk to sort of detangle that, or was that at another recording session? Because I know they had 3 of those.
And that's exactly how I was able to get to this premiere in New York City, was because I entered a voice acting competition. A friend of mine, so I used to voice act for fan projects on Tumblr.com, a lot of small voice acting beginnings, started there back in the day. And a bunch of friends and I met a voice acting troupe. I was in a voice acting troupe that had just recently finished a big project. And one of them, Corey, bless their heart, told me about this voice acting competition at Worlds. Now, I would have figured out about it anyway, but that really amped up my game. It really, I was like, there's no way, this is my shot, I can finally do something that's a dream of mine. And I'll tell you, Orange County Convention Center has to be blessed for me, because every game I've played in that convention center, I've never lost. And I believe that was another part of those games.
We got a whole another weekend for that next week, so I'm excited to see it. I actually auditioned too, not for the same role, so we weren't competing. Yeah. But I remember I was a Yu-Gi-Oh! Judge at the World Championship, and they let us on our breaks actually audition. And I didn't think I was going to get it. I wasn't trying, but I just wanted the experience of being in the booth. So can you talk about what it was like when they handed you? I think it was a little one-pager, and I know
it was a laminated piece of paper, and it had the male line and the female line on the back. And I sat there, and for 20 minutes I was reading it, and I was the first one of 5 that entered the room.
Wow. Okay.
And it was me, another guy, and 3 ladies, and I was reading the paper, and I was like, this is gonna be easy. This is gonna be easy, but why am I shaking? And I walk in, and it's a soundproof box that they made, and I was like, this is a pretty cool thing you guys set up. And it's and they were like, yeah, it took a while to get the acoustics right. And I was like, I bet. Like it looked it was not too shabby, all things considered. I get in the box and they put the headset on and I can hear myself a little bit. And like my setup, I don't like hearing myself a little bit. It's disorienting, but I understand why they do it. So you can kind of like understand the feedback when you're doing the lines, especially when you do redos. And they gave me 3 takes. All right. They gave the first take I did, I was not very sure about. And I was like, thank God they give me 3 takes. They were like, all right, well, we want, and they gave me voice direction. They told me just be a little bit more intense with the next one. And I did it for that. And I did one that was intense, like the same intensity, but with a different tone for the third one. And they took the second one. The second one's the line they used. So
they
like,
actually used that recording. You didn't have to like go back later. They just took that one and like, no, this is it. Ugh.
Yeah, they ripped the line straight there, and like I sounded completely different in the line than I remember hearing in my own headset. And you know, in your own head, when you hear your voice, it sounds different from what other people hear. So like so you're unless you're like a perfect acoustic genius, or you've got the skull or you've got the skull of John Henry. Like it's one of those things that just like it was so jarring to me to hear. And like for a while, you could watch the movie on Hulu. Like Dark Side of Dimensions was on Hulu for a while, so I got to show a bunch of people, and like it was really a humbling experience. Also, my first ever NDA, they cast me, and I was like, oh my god, I got it! Oh my god, I got it! But I couldn't. But like immediately, I signed the thing and I turned it in, and I was like, oh my god, I can't talk to anybody.
Got to keep those secrets, yeah. I remember
months.
I auditioned for the female line you mentioned just because I was like, I'm not going to get this. And I think if I remember the line, it's like, a success on every level. You should be proud. And I'm glad they didn't take me, but it was still fun to like be in there. So that was neat. I know what brought me there and what brought me to Yu-Gi-Oh, but we've covered like all the future stuff. Let's scroll back all the way back in time to the smallest Tyler we know. How did you start in Yu-Gi-Oh?
I started playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game in, I think, 2001.
Wow. I think is what we got, unless you were playing the OCG.
So I got like booster packs of Metal Raiders at like Spencer's Gifts.
Oh wow! Yeah, that had to be 02, but wow, what a time!
And I remember like they were like OCG packs, and I had this Japanese copy of Flame Manipulator that like I remember in my head rent free, like it just lives in my head as Flame Manipulator and Neo the Magic Swordsman. And I remember getting a starter, and I do remember getting a starter deck Yu-Gi in 2002, but it wasn't until like 2005 that like my sister was dating this guy who like is the father of my nephew, and he was, and we used to have our locals at Books A Million, like the bookstore, and we'd have Duelist League there, and I would go to Duelist League tournaments and play here, let me move this. I would play like in Duelist League tournaments, and I got like my first Thousand Eyes Restrict that way. And then we stopped having Duelist League there, so I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For a short time until 2009. And in 2009, I was at Best Buy with a Best Buy gift card that I got for my birthday. And I got a pack of the Shining Darkness.
Oh, and great set.
Yeah, great set. Like, amazing set. Changed my life. So I get a pack of the Shining Darkness. I pull a Ghost Rare Black-Winged Dragon out of one pack.
Yeah, wow.
And I look at my teammates, my friends. We played, like, Naruto cards or whatever before that. We played, like, Duel Masters, which was later rebranded to Kaijudo, which was later defunct. And I was like, are we Yu-Gi-Oh people now? And they were like, yeah, let's do it. So I live in Fort Myers, Florida, and the closest card shop was in Cape Coral, Florida, which was like a 20-minute drive over a toll bridge. So we would get together at a friend's house on Saturday night and go to locals at Cool Comics and Games in Cape Coral, and I did that for like most of my high school life. I remember Black Wings being like a deck you could basically get out of Gold Series 3 and pick up all of your cards. All I was missing was Royal Oppressions, which I was able to pick up at locals. I used to go every year to my family's place in upstate New York, and that year I just told everyone, we're going to these random card stores that I can find on Google Maps or MapQuest or whatever we used at the time, and let's buy packs. And all I wanted was OG print Cyber Dragons because I wanted cards from when I left. I wanted to catch up with Yu-Gi-Oh history. So I went and I bought these packs, and I just kept getting packs. And I built this expansive collection, and I used that to get like high rarity X Sabers. And I just started playing. And I had a girlfriend at the time who like wanted to play, and she liked Callan Kessler, and I loved Callan Kessler. I thought Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds is like one of my favorite shows of all time, and I was catching up with Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds at the time. I think like we were starting the beginning of like the WRGP, the Riding Duel tournament at the end of the arc, at the end of the show, and I was like, okay, well, I'm building Infernities, and that's when I learned combo decks, and I was like, oh my god, like I don't want to say it. I can't say it any other way, but like combo decks at the time were like a drug you couldn't put down.
It's true that there weren't really a lot back then. When you think about like that era of Yu-Gi-Oh, Black Wings was complex, but not too complex. Infernity was pretty hard. Elemental Hero, you know, your ending field wasn't much, but you sure had to play a lot of cards. But you're right that like if you were really into that vibe, that was like the earliest taste of what we're experiencing now in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, where it plays a little bit more like a Marvel versus Capcom style fighting game than maybe like the Street Fighter style the early Yu-Gi-Oh was.
I used to go like we'd be like in the middle of the night, and my friends would be like, okay, so how are you setting up these 3 Infernity barriers? And I'd just be like, all right, well, I do this, and then I go this and this and this and this and this, and now you do this over and over again. Like you just
the dance of
up
it, right?
and down, up and down, up and down, and then all of a sudden you have 2 barriers a break and like a Mistworm, and eventually Trishula, you know, like so it was just like it just picked me up. And I started playing for a long time. I played Chaos Dragons. I played the last week of like Wind Up when we had Hunter. Like whenever a deck was about to be hit on the ban list, I would get my opportunity to say goodbye. Like my friends would let me use the cards to say goodbye to this deck that I'd competed against for so long.
Yeah, that's sweet, actually.
It was really fun, and like I was still young, so I had like opportunities. Until I started going to YCSs. My first YCS was YCS Miami, and that was in 2013, I think it was.
Yeah, way back, because Florida doesn't get a whole bunch of events, but luckily we're getting that one next week.
It was the one where X Saber topped and didn't have a side deck. Yeah, that's what I remember explicitly. It was like it was way past X Saber's time, and I guess this fella just had something to prove. And I looked up the deck recently, and that's what the person showing the deck profile said. They're like, this guy just had something to prove. Like he because it was like post Dark Soul getting errated and all that. So I was the entire time I just kept wondering after that event, I was like, why couldn't I do it? Why couldn't I be the one to do something like that? And so I started to build up my game through all of Dragon Ruler format. I started building up my game. And and I went to YCS Atlanta, which was like my 3rd YCS I'd went to at the time.
That would have been what, Breakers of Shadow?
No, this is before that. So it'd be in 2014, gotcha. And it was and I believe that Patrick Hoban won the event. Like it was 4-axis Fire Fist and Mermail, like with 3 Upstart, 3 Card, 3 Reckless Greed.
That's like right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like like I was playing Black Wings because Whirlwind just went back to 3 at the time. So I was like, might as well try it. I'm still young. I just got my first job. I was working at the Barbara B. Mann Performing Arts Hall as like an operations department member. So I was scooping ice and watching Phantom of the Opera to save up my money for my booster packs, you know.
Dude, and, so you've always had this like theater and Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just always kind of going hand in hand, being the showman and being the competitor at the same time.
Indeed. And I was starting up my like online voice acting career at the time. Like things really started to kick into gear in like 2013, 2014, 2015. So like I was really pursuing what I felt were my passions. I was so like in YCS Atlanta, I was on a team with a couple of like really good friends of mine. Like we were in a card pool together, and the card pool broke up at that event. Like yeah, so and there's something that someone said to me in the car on the car ride home. Like I was just like, I just don't get it. Like why is this like not what I feel like it should be. And someone told me, and I've been bitter about this for a long time in my Yu-Gi-Oh career. Let's be frank about it. I was very bitter when they said this to me, but like I really sort of understand where they're coming from now. Is like they said like something along the lines of as it stands, like with the way that things are going, like you don't have what it takes to be like a top player.
So
And
did that motivate you for like this ongoing grind that you've been on ever since?
That it pissed me off, that's for sure. I'm sorry, like
hey, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So it definitely got me into second gear. Is what I should say. Like I really did. So Phantom of the Opera was coming to the Barber B Man that week after we got back from the YCS, which was a 9-hour drive of silence. Me just sitting there, like just stewing in it, just going, I'm gonna do it. I can't be like this anymore. I've got to be different. I've got to be better. And I finally just said to myself, okay, I am good enough. Like I am them. I'm going to prove to everyone that I always was them. And I finally decided it's time to be that better person. And I worked every single day of that Broadway theater. I worked every second they would let me clock in and out. I worked as hard as I could and got my collection bigger and bigger. And I picked up the deck of the person who I thought was the best player in my area. And I played them in mirrors and learned as much as I could. I think at the time I decided to play Heretic Dragon Ruler.
Oh, wow. That was a fun one for sure.
Oh yeah, and like going into what was eventually like the hat format that was coming up, like it really started to push me into working harder for like newer, better decks.
So this is about like April to June 2014 is what it sounds like.
Something like that.
Like okay.
That's around the time that I realized I was like, I think I've finally gotten my chops, and now like I really need to work to make like not just my skills better, but like know like what to do with the game, like what packs are good, what things are good to collect, and what things are good to like consider when you're trading with other people. And I really learned like the science of the game. I also joined a new team, which I'm still with to this day.
Oh, cool.
We're called we're called Team Unbreakable, and it's because of this deck I made that was like a mishmash of like Cliffort and Monarch, and like I just kept opening like really decent hands with this deck, and me and my friends really liked it, so we just kept the name.
That's cool.
And the person who told me like that I was like good enough like is a member of this team, and I could not be more grateful for them.
Well, let me ask you then, because you started off as a Yu-Gi-Oh fan and followed what I would consider many of the sort of trends, right? You wanted to get into voice acting because you heard all these dynamically cool voices. You got to, right? But you also wanted to buckle down on the competitive stuff. If you had to give advice to like the young duelist that you were, that was told like in the car ride, obviously something pretty harsh, what corrective instructions could you give that you think would help other duelists? Like what are people who are kind of like into the game but not super into it because they haven't like found whatever it is, what is it that they're overlooking, you think?
What do I think that players are overlooking that could help them like take their game to the next level? Is that what you're asking?
Effectively, if you've got a Joey Wheeler apprentice and your grandpa, you've had your moment and you know what it is that needs to be done. What is it that these younger duelists that they want to play but they just hit that brick wall and then they just scoop out on like whatever rank on Master Duel they can't get past? What is it that drives you? What is it that you found?
There's a video that I voice acted in recently. It's like a Yu-Gi-Oh parody video, and I'm not going to quote it word for word, but I think that but the person who made the video is somebody that's very near and dear to me, and he is somebody who has taken like advice that I've given as a teacher for this game to heart and used to like better himself. And I believe what they said is if you can meet the game like at its level and like without any preconceived notions about what the game is, like because everybody has a preconceived notion about like what the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game is, whether it be like from a competitive aspect of it being like this it's the non-mana system game of madness. You know what I mean? Like this is the game where you could do anything. Like I've heard the term you can do cold fusion with this deck. Like there's a lot of and heck, I was playing Tier Limit, a deck that you could play cold fusion when I got my first YCS top. Like if you can meet the game on without preconceived notions and on its level and find something that you're passionate about in that game that you are able to like meet in the middle about like something, then I believe that you can find that competitive edge that you want. You know, like you can find like if these are really your dreams, and I hate to quote one of my favorite professional wrestlers, but like fight for your dreams and your dreams will fight for you.
Ooh, I like that. Speaking of wrestling, I have to say you are still one of the best featured match, like post-match interviews that I had ever done. And I remember just being like, yeah, but just point the mic right here. And even the camera guy, if you go back and you watch it, they pan in on you because you did have that sort of like wrestler kayfabe, like let's do this, let's get in there. And so I can see now where the heart of the competitor came from after hearing all these stories of kind of what intersects to make you now.
I've been breathing for that feature match interview basically since the North American World Championship qualifier in 2015, where I lost on the bubble to Miguel Soto when he was playing Rit Beasts, and I believe he went to Worlds that after that round,
yeah,
or in that tournament.
2015 Nashville, if I remember correctly. And it was like Ritual Beasts, Volcanics, Necros. That was a crazy format.
Yeah.
Shadows too, I believe. There was some crazy stuff.
I was playing Necros, which I think was my competitive prime. And like if I wasn't to count things like Zodiac, like if I went to nationals with Zodiac that year, I think I would have done really well. But like that tournament like changed me. Like losing on the bubble like that made me like it like caused something in my mind that made me obsessed with like finding myself and finding the greatness that I felt like I always was meant for. And I've always wanted to tell that story of like me walking up I'm a Floridian, so there's no hills. I walked up this long hill after I got eliminated from the tournament. Nobody knew who I was. My phone was dead. And I was just sitting at a McDonald's eating a burger for 45 minutes.
Oh, man.
Like it was the longest burger I'd ever eaten. And it was like after I didn't eat the whole yesterday because I was playing my butt off. Like, I just remember eating this and just being like, I'll be better next time. And shortly after that, I started professional wrestling training in Ocala, Florida under WWE Hall of Famer Dory Funk Jr.
Whoa, so okay, now I see where it comes together.
So I learned how to do my promos for when I would eventually get my feature match just by doing like my wrestling training. And I was doing it while I was still playing Necros because Cosmo wasn't like out yet, so the ban list hadn't smashed us.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sitting there just finding my groove. You can find these old Snapchats of me on Facebook and YouTube of me just like throwing around Shadow cards, like just like dumping Unicorn and using salvage to get back my shirts. Like it's just such like an epic that like I wished I'd broken the glass ceiling then. And I've always known that I was like someone who like could. And like I'd always played at like such a level that was so close, but I never made like the full commit until the miracle that was YCS Richmond. Like I don't want to call my performance a miracle, but like the only reason I went like this, like I retired from competitive Yu-Gi-Oh in 2019. I was going to become a full-time judge. And I love judging. I was at YCS Minneapolis with you in 2022, I believe.
Yeah, and I do remember that. Good times.
You really put a thorn in my side there, Steven. Because in my post-judging interview, I said to you, I was like, I really want to be on the stream. My dream in life is to be a commentator for a professional esport.
You got the voice for it.
I do. But you definitely like gave me a kick in the pants that I needed, because even if I can't become a YCS champion, I think that I still have the hustle. I think that I have the personality. I think there's people who know who I am like in that community, and I just want to know more people. I want to connect with more people. I want this to be like the start of me connecting with more people, because like I'm going into this event. I lost my job recently. I committed January to YCS Orlando before I start pursuing my other dreams, and working hard towards being like a better player, a better version of myself. And I really wanted people to know like a couple tidbits about my story, and be able to show people that like at a mid-level in this game, like we have what it takes. I've been doing this since 2009 now. You could say 2011 is really where I got my competitive start. And like I'm sitting here now in years after the year that Max C came out, and we're going to the next YCS since Max C came out in Orlando, and it's basically my home state. And I get to tell this story where I get to walk in, and even if I don't get to, I got to have such a wonderful experience going into the YCS. I got to have such a wonderful experience preparing for it with my friends, my family, and like everyone along the way. And it means so much to me that I get to show people like what my story is, so then maybe I can one day fulfill my dream of being a commentator and be able to be this like voice for the another wrestler that I love, the voice of the voiceless in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, that show like what it is to be like a mid to high level player, and somebody who was told that maybe they weren't as good, and was able to prove that we are good enough, that you don't just need like the competitive edge of like a top players like training group, like people get to pick their spots. And I think that maybe I'll get another spot in the sunlight, like I have all of these times with like voice acting and like my decent tops, like my respectable tops, and like do more to enhance the competition in the game.
So if I had to put that in so few words, you're not playing for the Seto Kaibas or the Yami Yugis, right? People who have magic and endless resources. You're playing for the Joey Wheelers. You're playing for like, no, you over there, you could do this. You got to put the work in, but you can, right?
Absolutely. I would say that mine is more like it's more like the Jaden Yukis.
That's cool.
You know,
no shame there.
I think that like it's good to feel like I feel a little bit like the underdog sometimes. Like I know the underdog doesn't say that they're the underdog, but I feel like I'm working from below, especially in such an intense competition environment like Florida. Like I think that Florida has the chops to be, if they aren't already, the most competitive state for competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think that like that is what's really given me the chance to be what I would say now is like a little bit of a grizzled old vet, you know, like I'm coming from behind. I made a list recently that I posted on Twitter of all of the top players that I would love to play against this year. And if I get the opportunity to, including rematches against people that I've already played against before, like I would love to get my match 3 against Simon He, you know what I mean? Like I made this list, and like I'm following that list like it's my Bible going into this event. Like if I get one of these matches, it'll be like a dream.
Oh, that's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, talking about as we lead into the next week, and you don't have to give away too many secrets, but between now and YCS Orlando, what does the training regimen look like? Right? You mentioned that you are just wholly dedicated to Yu-Gi-Oh. So you wake up, it's Yu-Gi-Oh. You go to sleep, it's Yu-Gi-Oh. But what does that look like to try to live that competitive player lifestyle, at least for these next 7 days?
So I kind of just finished like the largest part of the training regimen, which was preparing and then going to VIP qualifiers. I've been chronicling all of it on my phone for a YouTube video that I'm going to be releasing sometime this week. I wanted to get my VIP qualifier spot because I felt like that would be a good avenue for me to like be like, hey, I'm already in the VIP. Why don't you put me on the feature match? like I'm right here, you know, like that might be a little easier for you guys. I want to do it. Like, and if it didn't happen, it didn't happen. Like it was whatever. So, but I did not qualify in any of the VIP qualifiers. I worked hard. I traveled across the whole state to try and get some. But I also spent a lot of time like trying to like find my own inner peace going into this event. So during the last week, I can really like cram school it the like I went to go see my mom and like my brother and sister who were in Florida. They live in upstate New York. I haven't seen my brother and sister since 2020.
Oh wow.
So like they're like teenagers now. So it meant so much to me to be able to see my family before I go into a big event like this, and like and them wish me luck, because like they're competition junkies too, which made me feel good.
So
I like seeing that my brother was a competition junkie.
We find strength from our family members. We are dueling from what we believe is a position of an underdog, and we've got something to prove. And we're sure we're not Joey Wheeler. Okay, fine.
And also, I did play a luck-based deck for my first YCS top. So
okay,
maybe,
Joey.
maybe
I'm teasing.
I never even considered that, Steven.
We even had the New York connection. I'm like, you got family in New York you haven't seen. We are definitely dueling for our sister's eyesight at this point.
At this point, I'm just looking to be the godfather of games. That's all I gotta say.
Don't have to be the king, but the godfather. That's all right.
Yeah. It's his line from the first Yu-Gi-Oh movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, so like being able to see my family really did kind of give new life to me, like in the last couple of days. So like that kind of like put a kick on my rear end again to kind of push myself a little bit farther. So like so this week, I'm going to be going to like a local tournament for like a case of Supreme Darkness. And then I'm going to sit down with a couple of my friends, like a friend of mine, Rennick, who just recently got his first YCS top. He got top 8, I believe, at Niagara. And I'm going to sit down with him, and I'm going to sit down with a couple of my friends, and we're going to work out what I think is the deck equipped to win the event. Because
no
at this point,
here, but yeah, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I think I've got the deck equipped to win the event. I'm excited to talk about it more in like in the future, and hopefully I get the deck profile. You know, like some people are kind of like looking for the deck profile whenever they're trying to top an event, and like I really do like want to be able to show people that like, you know, we can do it, right?
Well, as we close things out, since this is you and Yu-Gi-Oh, I want to try something here. Later, this video is going to be online, and you are going to either win that YCS or not win that YCS. So I want you to close this out with a message to you in the future, if you can.
Me in the future? Oh, no matter like what happens during this tournament, know that like everyone like told you that you're not doing this alone. You have dozens of supporters, hundreds of supporters maybe, who believe in you. And I'm getting and you know you don't like talking to yourself. You know you're very self-deprecative. Just don't let anything that bad happens block your chances to chase your dreams.
Words to live by. I think any duelist could just be like, oh man, even I was just like, good stuff, fam, good stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Anytime. Well, this has been just a wonderful conversation with, again, what I consider one of the like most decorated in every direction duelists. Remember, tops for very high profile tournaments, including the YCS. You're a Yu-Gi-Oh voice actor who has been in a feature film distributed in theaters, and then everything in between. You're just a great human being. So this has been a great time. We'll go ahead and put the links down to the channel in the comment section so you can check out the sort of preparation that Tyler's doing. But Tyler, good luck, fam. Sounds like in a week you're going to put all that preparation to great use.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for giving me a watch. I hope my story has been interesting to you.
Good stuff.